Welcome to the Ride This Out podcast, where we talk about how to improve your mental health and strengthen your connection to nature and your community, all through one simple solution: the bicycle. My name is Zach Golding, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and mental health therapist. I'll be your host as we discuss the power of pedaling. All right, welcome into this week's session. I talk with Jared Madsen of the MADSEN Cycle company. He and his wife, the founders, the creators, the owners, they still operate their company today. They do a lot of the work behind the scenes of everything to get these bikes up and going, and they've created a great product that provides access for a lot of families to be able to enjoy biking together. It's the bucket bike, the cargo bucket bike. So maybe you've seen them cruising around. They got the big bucket on the back. You can throw a bunch of kids, your pets, all sorts of different stuff on there. I've seen a bunch of them cruising around. They're amazing, really cool bikes. So it was fun to listen to Jared talk about the idea of the bucket bike and how he developed that and created the amazing product that it is today and how it's kind of taken off. So thanks to him for joining me. It was a really fun conversation. So if you know anyone that's thinking about getting a bucket bike, especially a Madsen bike, or if you're a Madsen member of the community, right? They have such a huge community, a huge following. You'll get some great stuff out of this session. So enjoy the story of the Madsen bucket bike. All right, Jared, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. Just wanted to start off by asking you to introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and a little bit of how you got into biking.
All right. Oh boy, how I got into biking. So, Jared Madsen, and I'll just go right to the biking part, I guess. But I grew up in the 80s and was lucky to be, I guess, about probably a teenager, 12 or so, when the mountain bike craze hit. So the first time I ever saw a mountain bike, I can still remember it was at a bike rodeo we had in our neighborhood, and this older kid showed up with a mountain bike that he had bought at Sam's Club and let us all ride it. And I had a BMX bike before that, which I loved, but that mountain bike got me so excited. That was where I got hooked. I mean, I rode a bike like every other kid, but that was the right experience at the right time. And I couldn't afford a mountain bike, so I ended up converting an old 10-speed in my garage with that BMX bike and trying to make one until finally I saved up enough to buy one. And is that kind of what you wanted to share about?
Yeah.
Or?
So how old were you when you converted your BMX bike into a mountain bike?
I was probably 12, 13, 14 years old when that all happened. When I was 15, I got a job at a bike shop. So I know I had a mountain bike right before I got that job. I started working at a local Schwinn shop, Highland Schwinn. And back when Schwinn was still really, really cool, they were really strong in the road biking arena and kind of fell apart since then. And I've worked with bikes and motorcycles and scooters in that industry ever since. So that's over 30 years ago.
That's awesome. So, I mean, this is, when you're a kid, like you said, in the 80s, this is pre-internet, Jared, right? Like how did you know how did you know how to do this stuff? How did you know how to convert a bike into a mountain bike?
Yeah, well, somehow we all managed to do things still without the internet. So I think bicycles and sewing machines are like at least older bikes and older sewing machines are just the coolest. They're so mechanical. Everything is obvious. Everything is out in the open for you to look at and to see and to fix and everything. My mind just definitely works that way. I'm super visual and super mechanical. if I can see it mechanically, I can understand it and I can take it apart. I have the opposite problem with school. I'm dyslexic and I failed all through school. It was a miserable experience, but anything mechanical or anything in a shop, my dad's a carpenter, so we had a wood shop. So I just understood that. And so laced up my BMX wheels to have the 10-speed freewheel on the back. And it wasn't a very good system and it didn't last very long. It held me through till I saved up the money to buy a mountain bike.
That's awesome though that you have the mind and the will to just even try it, right? That's awesome. And so then you get a job working at a bike shop, and then you learn even more mechanical skills there, I'm sure. How long did you work at that bike shop?
Oh, I worked there all through, it was my freshman year. So all through high school, I worked at that shop. I worked for a little bit at another shop at the same time. It was called Stout Cycles. They're not around anymore. And the old Schwinn shop, it's still the same owner. Actually, it's a family. It was a father then to a son, and I think it's going to the next son. I'm not sure, but I think they're called Highland Cyclery now. They dropped the Schwinn back when that fell apart. But
And this is up in Salt Lake City, right?
yeah, yeah.
So then as you're working at these different shops and stuff, at what point in your career in your life did the bucket bike come into play here? What was
Oh, that was a
the genesis of
long
that?
time later. I mean, we're that was not until I had kids, and uh, my wife and I took a we had kids. It was the first trip we'd taken since we had kids. So we left them; they were pretty young, with my wife's sister, and we took a biking trip through the Netherlands. So we were camping and biking. We just showed up there with a backpack and a tent, and got hold of two just super traditional Dutch bikes. One was just one gear, and my wife had a 3-speed. And we toured all over the Netherlands, camping and biking all over the place. It was an amazing trip. But during that trip, we were introduced to the Bakfiets, which is a front load bucket bike, and it was super popular right then. Moms were delivering their kids to school, and that bike has been around for a long time, but it was usually the butcher and the baker that used that style bike. It wasn't moms. It wasn't until Bakfiets, the brand Bakfiets, uh, started producing it and marketing it to moms that it exploded over there. And so after that trip coming home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I built one in my garage that I welded up a frame. It was the front load. The bucket was up on the front. We used a wheelbarrow bucket, and that was fun. Rode the kids all over the place, but it was hard. It was really hard to climb hills on it, and it was hard to like go through gutters and over curbs and stuff. You don't have the perfect bike paths like they do in the Netherlands, and we have hills. So came up with the other design, tried it with the bucket in the back, and that worked really well. And we used that prototype just to haul our kids around and have fun, and until we thought we should turn this into a business and start making them.
Yeah, what year was that you started thinking like, and I'm sure everyone around you was looking at this bike thinking,
Yeah.
what is this thing? I'm sure that everyone was asking you about it, right?
Oh, Zach, you like nailed it. It's well, asking me about it, maybe more giving me a crooked eye. Back that was like that's almost 20 years ago when we were playing with that prototype. Uh, Gosh, no, we started our business 15 years ago, so it must have just been a little before that, maybe 17 years ago. And back then, you rode something around like that, and you were really strange. So people were staring and pointing. When we very first started our business and started selling our bikes, that was our our customers were people that didn't mind being stared at, or at least the customers that actually rode their bike didn't mind being stared at and stopped and asked, "Where did you get that? Can you ride it? How does that actually work?" So it was something brand new, unique to the U.S. It's so different now, and it's a really cool how that whole industry with the cargo bikes has changed. But those early adopters, they were awesome.
And so you're just you start your business and you're just welding up all the frames yourself, or how that seems like a
No,
lot of work.
no, I didn't weld up the frames. Those were just the first prototypes. I I had worked for a motorcycle company, a little scooter company, uh, years before that, and they did all their manufacturing in Korea and China and Taiwan, and so I spent time over there on those projects, and so I knew how to put a product into production. So when we first started our first production run, I used a company in China to manufacture the frame. So I got on a plane and showed up in China. Again, this is the internet wasn't very helpful. So I had a contact in China from working for that other company, and her name was Olive, and she was my translator. And she met me at the airport, and then we drove all over to these. The hardest thing to get in production wasn't the bicycle; it was the bucket. Bicycle is, it's a bike. And our bike isn't very different than anybody else's bike. It just has a really long back end and a long chain. So getting that bucket made was something new for me, and also just a little more challenging. So that original mold for the bucket was made in China. Once we got that made, then we went to a frame factory to more match the frame to the bucket instead of the other way around.
Nice. So quite the process of getting it all going. And then this, like you're saying, this is 15 years ago that you're starting up this business. And I'm seeing your bikes everywhere. Like I'm in Utah, your company's in Utah, but they're all over the country, all over the world, right? Like, are you shipping them
Yeah.
out from your, like, how has it been since it's exploded? Like, what do you feel like
So
has been the
ex-
biggest thing?
exploded. The biggest thing for us back when we first started was we took our product. I remember we had some patents that were in the process, so we couldn't share it or reveal it to anyone until like the couple days before we went to Interbike with our bikes, and so we weren't able to like market at all. And so I showed up at Interbike just completely out of the gate, just blunt, no one knowing about us. And we sat there we thought it'd be really cool if we delivered our booth on bike instead of by truck. So we had parked our truck in our hotel parking lot, and then we loaded up our bikes, and just back and forth and back and forth. We also did it because we avoided all the union loading fees, which we couldn't really afford anyway. So we deliver that by bike and let the editor of the Show Daily, which is a magazine that comes out every day during a trade event, and which was Interbike. And that first day, I'm sorry, I'm going in circles here, but that first day we sat there in our booth, so excited, and like nobody came. No one,
Mhm.
no one looked at us, and I'm just sitting there thinking, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?" I had a container of bikes that had just shown up, so we had 200 bikes in my shop that we just had leased, and we've been building these things, and we haven't sold. I think I've sold like 3 of them to friends, and this was supposed to be our big thing, and no one showed up that first day. I mean, some people popped in just to say hello and stuff, and the next day we came into the booth, and there was like a line. There was like this big group around the booth, and we didn't know what was happening until someone said, "Hey, good job getting that article in the Show Daily." And so I didn't even know about the Show Daily. I didn't understand that they were writing articles about the show and printing it that night. But people look at that. They did. They looked at that publication, that magazine, and then came to our booth and started placing orders for our bikes. So that was huge. There was a big shop in Oregon. Oh, I can't even remember their name now. But they had three. They have 3 shops. Clever Cycles, and they had 3 shops. I'm don't know if they still do or not up in Oregon, and they ordered bikes. It was like they placed an order for like 30 bikes to sell through their shops, and that was huge for us. I mean, we were placing orders for I think we had a minimum. You had to buy 3 of them at a time for bike shops. Interbike was only open to bike shops back then. So that's what launched us. And we picked up our big dealer after that. We picked up REI, which was really big for us, which took like 2 years to put that account together. And then at the end of the 2 years, they informed us that they were only going to sell our bikes online. So they would only sell them through rei.com. And then you could pick up your bike at an REI location. And we decided we didn't want to do that, and that we could sell them online just as easy. And this is years after we started, and we dropped all of our bike shops at that same time. We dropped REI and we dropped all of our bike shops. It was a hard bike to fit into a traditional bike shop, a mountain bike, road bike shop, because it's not usually our customers. Our customers, usually, we say that they don't get dressed up just to ride the bike. You jump on with your Levi's on, you jump on whatever you have. That's our customer. Moms and dads just wanting to ride a bike, but they don't always fit in a bike shop. Sometimes it's intimidating to walk into a traditional bike shop if you're not a cyclist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think with the way that you've done it, it's worked, right? It's definitely exploded. I'm curious with the boom of electric bikes too, right? When did that play into it? Because I know a lot of your bikes, you offer the electric option too. How has that helped or taken off?
I thought we were 80% of our bikes are electric now. Last month, it was 100% of our bikes. We didn't sell one non-electric. So
Wow.
we sold bikes without the electric for 10 years. And I think as soon as we added the electric assist, that was like 5 years ago, and just because the electric bikes have exploded since then, but it's created this idea that you can't ride the bike unless it's electric. Just all of our social media, everyone out there showing themselves on the bike, they're usually on an electric bike, and it's killed that non-electric market. I will say that cargo bikes and electric bikes and e-kit, they totally go together. I mean, they're like a perfect match, just because they can be really hard to pedal, when you have them loaded up. So it is a great match. It works, but it's also sad to see just that whole market go away where you used to just pedal, and the bike was a lot more affordable. That's one thing with our bikes. Every model we've ever made, except for the first 2 years, is totally ready to bolt on our electric kit. So we use a mid-drive motor, but it's not a dedicated bottom bracket for that motor. So at any time, any of our bikes can be converted to electric. At the same time, at any time, any of our bikes can also go the opposite way. It can go back. And I've always built bikes that way, our electric bikes, with the idea that I want our bike. I've always wanted my bike to last forever. One of my favorite things every summer is seeing an old Schwinn tandem come out of grandma's garage or someone's garage, and you pump up the tires or replace the tires and ride that thing around. And those were manufactured in the 50s and 60s, and those things are still being ridden around. I love that concept of a forever bike. And I think that every single one of the electric bikes with a dedicated bottom bracket, they're going to break, and in 10 years, they're not going to be supported, or the bottom bracket's going to change. And that's just a disposable bike. It's just get rid of it and get something else. And anyway, I've gone on a little tangent there, Zach. I'm sorry about that.
No,
But
I love it. It's awesome to hear, you've thought this through, and the compatibility factor and the longevity factor, because yeah, there's, like you said, there's nothing like pulling an old bike out um and just going for a ride, and so
yeah,
as you've done all this, right, I think it's so cool to see how many families have definitely benefited from your cargo bike and experienced the joy of just riding. And so tell me a little bit about that. As you were biking with your kids when they were younger, I don't know, they're older now, but just being able to throw all your kids in the bucket and just kind of cruise around. What was that like when you first were doing that?
so that was a lot of fun. I wish I could go back in time and spend more time doing that. I I look at a lot of our customers who shape their life around their bike and their activities outdoors, and not just our bike, but and I'm jealous in a way, looking at how much they. If I worked way too much and didn't spend enough time with my kids, and I wish I would have been that. I mean, we did, but uh, it would have been fun to spend more time. But we had a lot of fun in the bucket bike. That was also a lot of development back then, so they were more of our guinea pigs in our testing uh, than anything else. I was really into cycling, road biking back when they were little, also, and so it was a awesome training tool for me because I was either tending the kids or my wife was tending the kids. And when it was my turn, we just put them in the bucket and I would go for a ride. We have a really cool canyon, Emigration Canyon, that's really close to where we raised our kids. And I would ride that bucket up there and just getting passed constantly by all the road bikers. But it was a really great workout and tons of fun for the kids, and lots of fun for me.
I love that. And that's one thing that I've noticed too with a lot of, I mean, in our family and a lot of other families that just love biking. Like you're saying, biking used to be, oh, I'm going to go on my road bike or my mountain bike and be gone for 3 or 4 hours, and I'll see you guys when I get back. And that's still fun to do that. But when you have kids, it's a little bit different when you can just say, hey, let's all just enjoy this together, right? Let's all load up in the bike, and the trips to school or the library or the store,
Yeah.
those can be replaced, from your car to just a fun bike trip, and just everyone benefits from that time together in the outdoors and just doing something that you love.
Yeah, it's true. We are still a small company, and we have a really cool relationship with our customers, especially since we sell direct. We get to know a lot of our customers, and with social media. My wife is really good on the social media, staying in contact, and it's fun watching families grow up with their bike and just watch them. And I guess I'm stalking them on Instagram and seeing them grow up, and we get to a point where we think we know each other, but we're just watching each other. And it is amazing how what a lifestyle it creates, and the stories we get back from our customers, how much the kids like to ride. They don't want to get in the car, but they're excited to get on the bike. We also work a lot with the special needs community, so and that's really fun to work with that community. Since we're small, and anyone local will make a lot of custom uh, supports and seat belts and all kinds of contraptions to be able to give one of the kids that can ride. And usually they help brothers and sisters, and it is the most fun. They'll come to the shop for our final fitting so that they can, test out, make sure that whatever we've done. It's usually some kind of custom seat and straps and stuff that we end up putting together, and they'll go out for their first test ride, and that's definitely one of the highlights of the 15 years, is watching that community and seeing how they use the bike, and the stories we get back from their parents, how one child has never been able to go out and ride with their brothers and sisters, and then all of a sudden here they can get in the bucket and zoom around with their brothers and sisters and friends on bikes and just be part of it. And that's a really cool part.
Oh yeah, that's life changing, right? For those families to be able
Yeah.
to experience that recreational fun all together.
Yeah.
That's
It's been
amazing.
life changing to us, and it's kind of a silent part of our business because it's a small niche part, right? And it's not one that we like leverage for marketing and stuff, but it's life changing for us and them. It's a really cool piece to have.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed too on your social media, your own, and then also the Madsen's side of it is you guys do some awesome community work and like donate bikes to different people, and they just get so pumped, right? And like just as you give them out as gifts and different things, I think that that's such a cool, like small gesture, but that again, it's life changing for those people. So what made you like want to do that, give back to the community and just connect with a lot of people and helping them out?
Uh, I don't know, and I almost I don't know how big your podcast is, but it's something we keep to ourselves, kind of. But just because we can get inundated with requests
Yeah.
for for things, but it's just for whatever reason, somebody's story or someone's situation will get us excited enough to want to do that. Uh, a lot of it, I mean, to be honest, a lot of it is marketing. So it's not all the selfless thing that we do, but and it's just fun. It's just a really cool thing to do. It makes the business fun. Otherwise, all I'm doing is just building bikes and shipping bikes, and there's nothing else, counting pennies. And so there's a lot to be said about that. Everyone, of course, has helped someone and given, and it just makes you feel good. It's just a fun thing to do if you can.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people going in the different mundane tasks of their business, right? If they are able to give back and help out, it just makes it that much more enjoyable and get that fulfillment from it too. So amazing. And one of the things too that I've noticed on your Instagram, like you're building all those crates by hand from like upcycled pallet wood. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's not pallet wood. It's the leftovers from a furniture shop
Oh,
down the street
furniture
from
shop.
us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's clean wood, luckily. But it was our number one asked for product. We have this really great front rack that's frame mounted, so it's not handlebar mounted. It can take a lot of weight. I sit on that rack all the time when my wife's riding, and I think we say the weight limit's 80 pounds, so don't sit on it at your own risk. But and it was designed to fit a milk crate perfectly, so the plastic milk crates, but it just really looks nice with a wooden one. And so I just never liked any of the wooden ones because they're really cheap. If you look at any wood milk crate, they're just nailed together and they're going to fall apart. So I finally got hold of a milk crate I think it's from the 60s, when they were wood originally. And this thing is like bulletproof. It's got these cool metal edges. And so we copied that. We had to make it a lot lighter because that was made out of oak and super heavy. But I started making them, and we've just never contracted that out. So I have a lot of fun making them. And as long as I can, I'm just going to keep making them. We do a few products in our shop, and that's really what gets me the most excited is my hands-on making stuff and just going through that whole design process. I love it, and I love it too when someone else makes one of my products. But to be able to do it all myself, it gives me a lot of fulfillment. My wife gives me a hard time because it uses a lot of my time, which probably could be spent somewhere else if we were just looking at the finances, but it's something I really enjoy.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do to keep you going, right? Do
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
love to do and help other people. And again, I think that speaks to the longevity and the just the quality product that you want to put out there. You want it to last for a long time, and you want to make sure that you're doing it right. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up here, Jared, any like as families are thinking about getting into cargo biking, or they're a little bit leery, but they see somebody on a bucket bike, like what advice would you give them, to just kind of either make that jump or just try it out? Because there's a lot of families that they're seeing them out more and more, but then they're like, I don't know, is it safe? Like, should I do this or should I not do this? What kind of tips or advice would you give to a family
Uh,
starting into it?
I have some strong opinions, and some strong advice, but my biggest thing is would say to people is to ride one. I People that are on bicycles, I think, are the nicest people around. We have the coolest customers just because they're people that are riding a bike. They're the kind of person that's outdoors, that's enjoying life. And we always say we have the best customers, but I don't think it's just our customers. I think it's anyone on a bike. So even if you barely know someone that has one, or even if you stop them, they're going to let you take a test ride. So I would ride them, try it out, make sure that it's a fit for you. And then when it comes down to which one you're going to pick out, same thing. Just make sure you ride them. Don't make the choice on how they look or what someone told you. Someone's going to give you advice. They probably have only ridden the one that they're giving you advice on. So if I could take every customer that's ever bought one of our bikes or someone else's cargo bike and just ask them please to ride them all, it'd be our best selling point right there. Is just ride them. They're not all they don't all ride like a bicycle. They're not all easy. They're not for everyone either. But so yeah, just get out and try one out first.
And you're absolutely right. Anyone that I've ever met with a Madsen bucket bike, they're the coolest people ever. Like for real. They're so down to earth. They're just like, oh yeah, take it for a ride. And you guys do a great job of keeping that community solid. Like you said, I've noticed like a couple videos that I've posted. We do a bunch of group rides, and I don't know if it's your wife running your social media, but they're like, oh, I see so and so. I see so like we know them. They have a bucket bike. I think that's so cool. You guys have created that community.
Yeah, it's a cool one. It is my wife. She does it all, and she's good at it. And it just lends itself to that kind of community. I mean, it's just a perfect product for that too. So we're
Yeah.
lucky in a lot of ways. And
No, that's great. Well, Jared, thanks again so much for taking the time. I appreciate the work that you do. I think it's helped, so many families get out and ride and experience, the benefits and the wellness that can come from riding a bike. And so keep up the good work, man. You guys are great, and it's awesome that you're a local company here too in Utah, where we live close by. So yeah, keep it up.
all right, we will. Thanks, Zach. It was fun talking with you.
Yeah, you too. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, big thanks again to Jared and his wife. His wife actually was the one that set up this interview. I communicating with her through Instagram. So great people. It's really cool to follow their stuff, what they do. Building the crates by hand, doing all the accessories. They have all these awesome challenges that they do where you can earn badges for how much you ride, and just the tight-knit community that they've built. It's really special, really cool. I was also fascinated with the way that Jared was talking about how his brain works, right? Just so mechanically inclined, and really fascinating, really interesting to hear how he talked about, as a kid, he had a learning disability, had dyslexia, and how school was just such a hard thing for him. I've worked with so many kids, I've worked with so many families where their kids might be struggling with some kind of learning disability or some kind of lack of ability to focus, right? From whether it be dyslexia or ADHD or something's going on. And they get so frustrated, they get so agitated and irritated with their kids and the school systems and how it's just not a good fit for them. And it's my firm belief that if you are having some of those symptoms, having some of these, quote unquote learning disabilities, if you put them in a different scenario, a different situation, those learning disabilities become, in Jared's case, it became a mechanical ability, right? He was able to really do his hands-on work and focus, and he's still doing that now. So, don't get discouraged. Try not to let that overwhelm you, but rather being stuck in that same situation, put yourself in a new environment, find some new ideas, and you'll create something amazing, right? This bike that Jared has made, it's literally helped thousands of people, right? It's helped thousands of families get out and enjoy the joys of riding. And so cool to hear how they work a lot with the special needs community. I know that there's so many people, like I was saying earlier, that their lives change because they're able to ride with their kids that they weren't able to do that before. So great stuff, amazing stuff. I don't personally have a Madsen cargo bike, but after I talked with him, I texted my wife. I'm like, man, we got these bikes are sweet, man. What a great company. So, and I'm just a firm believer that, cargo bikes are life-changing in general too. If you're thinking about getting a cargo bike, man, get out there and, like he's saying, test ride some other ones. You will not regret it. I promise you. If you end up getting a cargo bike you can ride around with your family. And Madsen is an amazing company, as you have just heard from the man himself. So super cool how he's still involved with a lot of, the building of the crates and just all the stuff that they do. So again, big thanks to them. So thanks again, guys. Share this with others, leave a review, and all those good things. It's been really cool to see the growth and people being motivated to get out there and ride. So whenever you're going through a hard time, whenever something comes up or you just want to jump on that bike and ride this out.